Well, police in Florida are on the hunt for a possible serial killer. In the past 2 weeks, 3 people have been ambushed and killed at night in the central Tampa neighborhood of Seminole Heights. Officials believe that the murders were linked because they all took place in the same area and because at least 2 of the victims were trying to catch a bus when they were shot. Former FBI profiler Mary Ellen O'Toole joins us now to discuss this. Mary, can you give us a sense of what the latest is on the investigation? Do you think that officials have any leads on who the killer might be?
Well, my sense is they have many leads. People are very concerned, and when that happens, people will call in to the task force, the hotline, and provide information. And it may be a small piece of information, but that's okay because the task force is able to piece things together. So even though they may not be putting it out there, my sense is they do have leads, and they're following up on them quite quickly.
You know, what we found was interesting. The officials have not actually used the word serial killer in this case. What does that term mean, and why do you think they're staying away from it at this point?
Sure, and it makes sense. I've heard that before, but serial killer, the definition is someone who kills 2 or more people over a period of days, weeks, months, or years. And the term serial killer can really invoke an awful lot of fear and concern in people because people start to conjure up images of Freddy Krueger or Ted Bundy or people that they've read about in the newspaper. And so they're being extra cautious down there. And what they're trying to do is to really lessen the fear that people have and to reassure them that they're on top of it. They don't necessarily have to use that term, though.
All 3 of these victims rode the bus and were shot while alone at night. Could that possibly give authorities any indication of a motive?
It could add to it, but what it tells them, I think, primarily is that these cases involve more than likely victims that have not been specifically targeted, but victims more of opportunity, which means when they identify the offender, it's likely that he does not have an association with these victims. But also the fact that they're linked at night could also be that it gives the offender the cover of darkness to be able to hunt in that neighborhood so he's not being identified or seen, although it's likely that he could have been caught up on a video camera. But also the motive goes to the reason that he's doing this. And I think when someone does something under the cover of darkness, sneaks around in the neighborhood and is able to carry off a crime like this, that's very indicative of the fact that they don't want to be caught because they want to continue to do what they're doing.
So what are the next steps, Mary, when you're trying to bring investigators closer to solving this case?
Well, there's a couple of next steps. They'll follow up on the leads that are coming in. They'll be going to that neighborhood and talk to people face to face to see what people have seen prior to the shootings and during the time now that the shootings have occurred. And they'll also go back prior to the first shooting to look for other kinds of crimes that occurred in the neighborhood that may or may not have involved something that happened at night or something that involved a firearm, because that's the weapon that was used. So they're looking at it from a victim point of view and then from the offender point of view. What was he doing probably in that same neighborhood before the shootings actually began? And is that weapon a weapon that they can go back and trace to that offender? So they do have a lot of work that they're doing, and I can assure you, being on many of these task forces, they're working at breakneck speed to identify him.
Mary Ellen O'Toole, thank you so much, Mary.